So, of course, it's American corporations, Walmart and so that buy from China. The American corporations have outsourced to China, for one thing, cheap labor. The Chinese have done the work. They've become the workshop of the world. I think in 10, 20 years, well, already the military buzzards are hovering around China and beginning to make noises about China's oil supplies in Iran, China's oil supplies in Sudan, and other places in Africa and the Middle East, and to try to put as much pressure on China as they can. What I see and have confirmed in discussions in China with economists is that probably we'll have in 10, 20 years, short of a nuclear annihilation of the planet, in which case all bets are off for all of us. But let's say we avoid that insanity and the gods of money or the elites of the U.S. Anglo-American world come to their senses and say, okay, we're not gods. We have to scale down our ambitions a little bit, hopefully a lot. Then I would see a regional grouping of alternative currencies. For example, the Chinese are working on arrangements with their major Asian trading partners to stabilize currency values between them, not done through the dollar, but directly. I think the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which few Americans have ever even heard of, set up in 2001 between Russia, China, Kazakhstan, which is rich in oil and raw resources, raw materials, as well as Uzbekistan and several other of the Stans, former Soviet countries, that creates a Eurasian land space. If people look at a good atlas, you'll see what the potential is of this. And that's the one nightmare that Washington planners, Zbigniew Brzezinski even mentions it in one of his books, they have, is that the countries of Eurasia, Russia and China especially, get their act together and start cooperating peacefully. Europe is going to automatically be brought into that game because their energy deficit, Germany especially, Germany has the machine tools, the advanced industrial equipment that Russia needs to rebuild its battered economy. And the fit is just a natural fit. And the only thing, whenever it starts to get going, suddenly there's an explosion or a terrorist incident somewhere in Kyrgyzstan, or a toppling of a dictator, and a color revolution in Ukraine, financed by U.S. intelligence agencies and NGOs, or Georgia, so that there's a disruption of this cooperation. But I think we're coming to the point where the sophistication in Europe, the sophistication in Eurasia, Russia, China, is such that they are determined to build a regional currency arrangement so that their trade is facilitated. I think the similar thing will happen in the countries of South America, Venezuela, Bolivia, Brazil, and so forth, that they will begin to increase the trade and currency stability outside of the dollar. So that, of course, spells a bleak picture for the dollar, but the dollar has, and Washington has spelled its own bleak picture with their policies of the last 30 years or so, since Nixon tore up the Bretton Woods Treaty and decided to take the dollar off of gold exchange. So we're reaping, the chickens are coming home to roost. Unfortunately, innocent Americans are going to be the victims of that unless they begin telling Washington in no uncertain terms, and not through tea parties, but in terms of real grassroots spontaneous action.
Well, many Americans are uncertain. Many Americans are fearful. We have a national debt here that's soaring. It's just hard to keep up with, William. I wrote a book back in 2009, and it's so, to my chagrin, I put down that the national debt was $9.3 trillion. That was in the beginning, or the very end of 2008. Now it stands at $13.3 trillion, and it's growing by the billions every single day. The federal deficit is out of control. The unemployment rates are out of control. The wage and income growth are at all-time lows, with bankruptcies, foreclosures, personal debts off the charts. FDIC's bankrupt. The federal government is continuing to lean upon the Federal Reserve, which Jackson tried to destroy back in his day, President Jackson. What is the outlook for the United States? I mean, you talk about this Eurasia, Europe.
Well, unfortunately, I see if we allow, there's not been one fundamental in this so-called financial sector reform is an obscene joke that was just passed by the Congress. There's not been one fundamental action taken to force the reintroduction of Glass-Steagall controls between investment banking and commercial banking that was set up during the Great Depression to stop this financial fraud of Wall Street, which it did a quite good job of it right up until the 90s. We have to re-regulate the financial system. We have to take these mega banks that are bigger than the gross domestic product of most countries on the planet and literally put them under federal. They are under federal transfusion financial receivership, but they should be put under legal Chapter 11 by the federal government and broken up in an orderly way, the way they did in Sweden in the early 90s when they had a huge national banking crisis and real estate speculation there. The Swedes are just shaking their heads that I know in disbelief at how weak the Obama administration has been on any serious attempt to change the power of these financial institutions. You know, Goldman Sachs is almost like a government in itself. They are so powerful, and the chairman of Goldman Sachs told the British Times back about a year ago, I quote this in my book, "We simply are bankers doing God's work." Well, what an obscenity is that? That's why I decided to call my book "The Gods of Money." They literally see themselves in Wall Street as gods, and that the majority of the population are simply drones or worker ants that do their bidding. And I frankly am not content with a world like that.
F. William Engdahl, author of the book Gods of Money, Wall Street and the Death of the American Century. Go to Amazon.com and pick up your copy today and find out what's really happening in the U.S. economic system and the global financial crisis. Find out for yourself. Amazon.com, Gods of Money, Wall Street and the Death of the American Century. William, if people want to learn more about your work, if they want to find out more about what you do, read even some of your articles, where can they do so, sir?
Well, the easiest way is to go to my website, www.engdahl, oil geopolitics, one word, Engdahl dot, and then one word, oil geopolitics, GEOPOLITICS, .net, engdahl.oilgeopolitics.net, or just do a Google under F. William Engdahl, and they'll come to the website pretty much right away. There I have most of the articles that I've been writing for the last years, and people can get an idea of some of the books and hopefully buy a few and spread them around to their friends.
Thank you for your courage to come on and talk about these very difficult things. Many people don't want to hear this, William, and you're doing a great work, and I appreciate your hard work with your books, and keep up the good fight, and appreciate what you do, sir.
Thank you for having me, Jerry. I enjoyed it.